All right. Hello and welcome to Bigskybits. I'm your host, Colby. Today we'll be quickly going over what happened over the weekend and some of what's going on with Bitcoin. It's a later episode than I normally do, so we'll see how this all turns out. If you like the content and would like to engage a little more, help me out with different topics you might want to hear about, or give me some ideas of what's going on in the space or projects you've heard about, please leave a comment. I'm over on Rumble or on YouTube. And with that, we'll go into the major thing of the weekend, which, of course, is the price action. Price action with Bitcoin, as we all know, has been quite tumultuous as of late. But for those of us who didn't really get into it for just price appreciation, I mean, in many regards, I'm shocked we're even where we're at today. In many scenarios, I could also see us being much higher than we are today, but much lower. The adoption seems pretty much where I would expect an asset like this. The problem with Bitcoin is most people don't even understand it on a fundamental level. So I would encourage all of you out there, go do some research. And that is one of the key tenets of Bitcoin is DYOR, do your own research. And I suggest everyone does that. So with that, we'll go over to Bitcoin. We noticed it skipped quite a bit down in the last 24 hours. I mean, only 1,500. But over the last week, we can see a good $6,000 dump. And just a tumultuous last month. And looking at the 3 months, it's even showing a more tumultuous time with a lot of downward momentum. Now, what I could say about this recent rally, we still haven't cleared any of these lows. So, I mean, with that, it still can be somewhat good. We still haven't got down to any of these 70 levels or retouched any of that. And that's all a possibility. So be wary, but often when there's fear in the street, this is a good time. And speaking of that, if we head over to Binance's fear chart, fear and greed index, you can see Bitcoin's back into the fear zone. We've been rotating a lot between fear and greed lately with these huge jumps in the price. And I think it's this volatility that really kind of keeps people on their toes, and it just makes it hard to trade. When we look over at the meme pool, it's still going relatively, I don't know if they got some kind of, we got a whole bunch of empty blocks not too long ago, and I'm not seeing the next blocks propagate. I wonder if they're having some problem on their site. That's interesting, but the fees for Bitcoin transactions have, again, been relatively low. So, the bigger thing when we look at price, though, price action is only half of the equation. I think the bigger thing in what's leading the narrative now is that this space is filled with a lot of bullshit. And that's just the fact of it. Between meme coins, half the shit projects that are pretending to be something they never could be or actually want to be, we're seeing this space filled with thousands of coins that actually do nothing. One moment. All right, excuse me. We're seeing a lot of other altcoins, the narrative drastically changing. People going from, hey, this might have some utility, to more of people looking at it as this is just purely a gamble. And one of the biggest ones we've seen it in is Ethereum. And I've said for the longest time, Ethereum needed to hold its price above this 0.023 Bitcoin level. And now that we've slipped below that, and have remained there for a while. Let's see. We'll look at the 1-year chart, but add the Bitcoin into it. You can see we're testing relatively long-term lows. We still have to get down to these levels around. I mean, this isn't updated because we're actually way down here in the 0.2. I mean, we're damn near at historical levels. These dips right here are at... That can't be right. What is going on with these sites? Oh, it's this number, right? So we'd be at the lows here back in the day at 0.018. So we still have a bit lower we could go, but we're definitely below a lot of this other support. Hitting down below this dip, below these dips. I mean, we're kind of in this no man's land of the low twos. If we do slip much below the 0.02 level, I mean, Ethereum in regards to Bitcoin's probably over. And I believe it's already over. When you look at the project, even though it's provided a lot of insight into what these smart contracts and what some of the future of finance might look like, Ethereum in essence is a broken system. When they introduced proof of stake, when they got even just their being Turing complete really allowed too much in their protocol. Instead of being streamlined for what it's meant to be, Ethereum tried to allow a lot of projects, and what we're seeing is a lot of those projects have not been good for the ecosystem. You can take it any way you want, and you can look at the pros and cons, but I think the market's speaking for itself. Now, when we look at some of the other cryptocurrencies, you can see XRP in this top list is leading the way down over the week at almost 13% down. And that's another one I've had a lot of issues with recently, and I don't really think things will get much better until XRP dips below $2 and XRP crashes in relation to a lot of these other ones. And I guess that's where we're really getting to, is that is what we're witnessing. As Bitcoin dominance is rounding close to 60% on CoinGecko, and CoinGecko likes to have as many shitcoins as possible in their roster. Some of the other sites already have Bitcoin at 62, 64%. It's all on the amount of shitcoins they want to include in their algorithm. So you should take all these numbers, all these stats with a grain of salt, because people are able to manipulate this stuff to a degree you wouldn't even fathom. So, on those notes, let's continue this moving. I want it to be a relatively shorter show today. We'll move on over, and on Reddit, someone posted this nice graph. We'll go look at who did comment on this. But it shows some of the nation state accumulation of Bitcoin. And you can see here the US and China have the vast majority in world relations, with North Korea jumping up there rapidly. And that's mainly because of the most recent hack of, was it Bybit or BitGet? One of the big exchanges just had a recent one that we talked about on another episode, of how some hackers were able to steal a large amount, and it looks like North Korea is in control of that. So that's an interesting little chart that just shows how many nations are acquiring Bitcoin, how much they're acquiring. And I think this all just goes to that same narrative that, well, price action might be short-term volatile. We might see a lot of day-to-day action that is scary and tumultuous, again, to use that word. But when we look at the bigger picture, we're seeing every day different states adopting Bitcoin to their state registry, different nation states, countries that are putting Bitcoin on their reserves. we're seeing adoption by pension funds, by hedge funds, by investors of all sorts, as well as the real world adoption. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the real world adoption, because of what Bitcoin's meant to do, will come from times of hardship, war, extreme censorship, authoritarian rule that just forces people to get outside of government control. And people have always found ways to do that, and I think that's when we'll really see Bitcoin adoption hit. Now, for the average person. Now, as long as nation states get it, we can see an interesting scenario play out where there's almost a game theory that brings us together under this Bitcoin monetary system. So we'll see how the future unfolds, but again, do your own research, go out, enjoy life. This stuff is not meant to be the way you make money. This is the way to think about the future, trying to get away from this vapid consumerism. I'm a staunch capitalist, and I believe that, but the way our relationship with money is not healthy. And I believe that is a product of the fiat system and its constant attempts or constant nature to devalue itself. Bitcoin becomes this stronger product, and I think we need to look into this and what the ramifications of a protocol like this would have on humanity. So with that, I hope you have a great night. We'll be back this next week with a lot of content. And again, please hit that like and subscribe button. Have a wonderful day.